So in this module, we look at the digital age and how it transforms communication in business. We can't escape our digital technology. Our smartphones, our laptops are going to be right there. Our social media is definitely transforming the way that we consume, create, review, communicate messages, share information and media across various channels, especially in business. So email's been around for over 50 years and it's still going strong, especially in business. Traffic continues to grow. Most of us have over 100 emails a day. There are over 125 billion business emails exchanged daily. And 85% of us check our email on our mobile device. So email is great, but it's not without its problems. Emails are really easy to write and send. They're also easy to make mistakes on. So you want to be careful because you don't want to be on the reading end of that mistake. It definitely reflects upon the professionalism of it. People answer a large amount of emails during the day. It can be very time consuming, almost time wasting. The other thing about email is that it's always on. So you may feel that you are having to answer emails that are sent over the weekend or overnight. And be aware also that email leaves a trail. So whatever you send can always be referenced and brought up again. And that's why you want to make sure that you're drafting a professional quality email before you send it. So it's a good idea to know when an email is actually appropriate. For short, informal messages, you might want to send it by text. Email works for longer, well-organized messages that may provide questions or responses, messages to multiple receivers, messages that must be archived and saved, and also they're great for sending attachments. So you might have a document that just introduces an attachment. Email may not be appropriate for some communications. Face-to-face or telephone calls might be better for things like enthusiasm or warmth. Things can get lost in an email. To explain a complex situation, a persuasive argument, or to smooth over disagreements, people are much more likely to comply with an in-person request than they are by one sent by email. So remember to use your emails appropriately. So any professional business communication needs to be well thought out and well crafted, and email is no exception. You want to start out with a good subject line. Make sure you have a subject line. And it kind of summarizes what the whole email is about. The first line should be a salutation, a professional salutation addressing the person or persons that you're sending the email to. And then a well thought out structure inside and a closing that has a call to action, dates, anything that you really want to leave them with, contact information. I know it's not easy, but here's some tips to tame your email inbox. Set aside a scheduled time every day to check your email. Don't keep going in there checking your email. Turn off your audio and video alerts so you avoid distraction. When you come to your scheduled time, go through your emails and answer the short ones right away. Leave the longer ones for the end. If you have to schedule a separate time to do it, you might have to do that. But the trick is to get in there and get out of there as soon as possible and do it only 2 or 3 times a day. Sometimes in business, your communication might be a little bit too long for an email. It may require another level of formality and a permanent record that doesn't go through a whole bunch of threads. Something like a change in procedure, official instructions, an annual report may require something more like a memo. So like a professional email, an interoffice memorandum is going to have a certain look to it. Again, you want to go for briefness. You want to go for readability. If you look at this memo sample from the book, you've got the subject lines all lined up nicely. So date, to, from, and subject, so those headings look nice and clean. The spacing is clean. The document itself has comfortable margins of 1 inch to 1 1/4, and that gives you a little bit of breathing space. That white space, remember, is golden if someone wants to make notes. It also uses bulleted lists or numbered lists, this one uses, to kind of organize the information. Also tabbed columns you'll see here, which also lets you kind of line things up know how to use tabs, never line up with spaces. If you want, I can show you a second video on how to use tabs in Word and Google Docs so that you can format your information nicely. Typically you don't have a closing, but you might have a call to action that has things like deadlines and dates and something to be done by the person who's actually reading the memo. So one of the easiest ways to communicate with your colleagues at work might be text messaging or instant messaging. Both are kind of immediate. They could be powered by AI, chatbots, and things like SMS, which is short message service, or RCS, which is rich communication services. This is where you're able to use more multimedia in your kind of text messages. And this all leads to what's called a presence functionality, which means that you're kind of always available. So obviously this technology has lots of advantages in our global marketing communications, fast-paced society. You can reach anyone, anywhere. You can make quick on-the-spot decisions. Anybody can find you wherever you are. You can engage customers with a certain kind of individuality. So with the good also comes the bad. Some employees consider chat and messaging a distraction. Organizations feel that their records may be at risk. Companies worry about things like phishing and malware and viruses getting onto their system. Anything that you text is part of a public record, and it could be in a legal case. And be careful the content of what you text. Some things are just not safe for work. So many small startups and lots of businesses actually adopt an enterprise messaging system, a dedicated platform that allows you to communicate with your comrades and employees. It declutters the inbox. It simplifies communication, kind of functions as a digital water cooler. You can have a main channel for business, and you can have a couple of sub kind of chat channels, so you can increase camaraderie and collaboration. It allows you to obviously talk to people in other places and other times. It's easy to use, and there is a free version. It also allows employers to securely monitor and log what's going on. So, as you can see, business text and chat has its place. It has its advantages. You want to make sure that you follow professional guidelines like any business communication. Make sure you punctuate, grammar, spell. Be careful of using things like jargon and slang. Remember, this is not a personal text. This is a professional business text we're talking about. And things like abbreviations might not be understood by other clients and partners in business. It's also a good idea to publish your status so that people know when you're available and when you're not to be disturbed. So a podcast is an audio program that's recorded and then distributed over the internet. It can be downloaded onto your smart device, so you don't have to be online to listen to it. And typically they are series or episodic, so they come out on a regular basis, maybe monthly, weekly, or even daily. And people expect a certain, sequence or a certain regularity. They can be subscribed to so that you'll be notified by the host like Apple or Google that a new episode is available. They can also be archived so you can listen to back episodes. Some are live. They can be sponsored. They can be monetized. So it's a great way for businesses to engage in marketing. Also, just internally, it's a great way to communicate within a business. So you might have training or news and information. It's also a great way to kind of engage because people can listen to each other's voices. You can even have video podcasts. So podcasts is definitely a great way to communicate. There can be some skill involved here. If you take AC211 multimedia presentations, you'll produce your own podcast here in our professional recording studio, and you'll have an accompanying website that will go with it. So sometimes podcasts can be a little bit expensive because of the equipment and the technology and the expertise to produce them. Hey, guess what? You're listening to a podcast. Well, it's a great way for me to give the information to you asynchronously in an online class, and you can listen at your leisure. You can listen anytime you want. You can listen over and over again if you're a glutton for punishment. But it's certainly a great way to distribute information in an educational environment also. Another great way to communicate in business is by using a blog. A blog is a website or a social media platform that is usually written by one person, a social media manager, and then commented by other people who subscribe to the blog. It's a great way to keep your customers, your employees, and the public informed about what you're doing in your business. You can also accumulate a large tribe, and you can tell your brand story and continue to shape it through the evolution of your blog. So companies can tell their stories with blogs through public relations, customer relations, market research, internal communications, online community building, and recruiting. The list just goes on and on. You can have a video blog like a YouTube channel, which allows you to really demonstrate your product or your service, and also have interaction with people who are subscribing to the channel. So brands can use all of these kind of online communications to provide influences. You know about influencers, obviously, public opinion leaders who boast a large audience and are invited by retailers to create a profile on the blog or the website, and they monetize it. Brand ambassadors, influential online opinion leaders, again, who evangelize or advocate for brands. You can also have people who are de-influencers, right? People who give negative reviews. But the idea is that as a social media manager, you need to be plugged into all this and know the analysis of how your brand is doing on the landscape and looking at other brands and the future and changing environments and economies and how you're going to continue your brand's success.